Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today, Bank be joined again by Austin and Jake.
Hello.
What's going on, y'all?
And today's matchup is me versus Austin. Austin's brought back his Burn Gohan deck, and I've brought out Raditz today. Yeah, let's get into it.
The set 7 matchup of the ages.
But this is revived, but you're right, that is entirely what it is.
Yeah, I forgot that the Raditz came out set 7. I know it's
not this one, but
a
Raditz came out.
Yeah, the original one.
The idea for the deck came out, yes. Yeah. And man, did it need a reboot.
It really did. It was I loved the idea of the Raditz when it came out, because it was like, because everyone only had like the crazy cell perfect force for like hand control for a while. Then Raditz came out and everyone's like, oh, can we do hand control? And it's like, oh, no.
That is exactly what happened.
Now, I will say, the card I charged was a great addition for the Raditz deck, but once again, it just wasn't good enough. And like this leader, and also what set 15 brought out, which is a really good, just really good stuff in general. And this was a great turn one for me. I was able to establish both the Powerball and the free blocker Vegeta, so now I have an open energy to go straight into a Great Ape on Austin's turn one.
Yeah, and good.
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
I'm done. That's my whole comment.
But I really think that this is an insanely good leader. It's probably been overlooked by some people just because the original Raditz wasn't that great. And I know back when we had the big reboot, like Surge, of all those leaders, that everyone was hyped up for it. But I feel like for the most part, a lot of people look over reboot leaders now. It's like a few here and there, besides the few like diehard fans of like those leaders or the gimmick or sets.
Well, so and here's what a lot of it breaks down to. So you had Cell Surge, which was a far superior hand control deck.
Yes.
Raditz will pretty much get crushed by black decks. Yes, it's going to the warp, but if you're playing a black deck, a lot of times you're probably playing the Xeno Gogeta chain, which, hey, guess what? I can do this stuff from my warp. So,
yeah.
And you don't get the crit, you can't get the triple strike on the Awakened side Raditz either.
Black.
Yeah.
And you don't get the draws either, right? From the card. From the
because
the one you hit the energy, because it's not black cards.
Yeah, I understand why they worded the card that way. I wonder if they could have tweaked it a little bit to where this deck is viable against every color. Because as it stands, like, as far as I'm concerned, it's a really unique, cool strategy, but I don't think it'll ever, like, I don't know how many, like, even games or tournaments of a local event you could win with this Raditz leader, just because if you run up against one or two black players, that could be your whole night.
For
and
sure.
I mean players that play black cards before anybody goes crazy in the comments.
But yeah, that's the this could be, like I said, it still can be pretty good because you still have other things, and while you don't get to the warp every time or the draw, the deck itself still does a lot of good hand control stuff because it sends a lot of cards to the drop area, which once again can help certain black decks if it's, overwhelm focused. But I still think you can have a lot of fun with this deck and it'd be really good on a locals level. I don't see it getting any higher than regionals, but I still think overall it's overlooked as a fun deck you can bring to locals that you could probably win a few tourneys. Not win, but do really well, maybe even win, depending on what your local meta is. Because I know our local meta is different than the general meta of America.
Yeah, I imagine every locals is like that because people will bring fun and wacky stuff, or you have people of varying skill levels where you get to a regional where you have to travel and it's more expensive to enter. It's just cost prohibitive to those more casual minded players.
Yeah, so you gotta bring your A game because you're like, I'm like, man, I took time off work. This is a big tournament. It's a regional. I got spent money on this instead of just hanging out with the homies at the local shop.
So, I want to kind of go over this tech choice. I don't typically look at a lot of decks when I'm building them, but I wanted to see some ideas. I don't think I saw a single person on the builds I saw was playing this Unison. It's a fairly cheap, not Unison, sorry, Overwhelm card, Toa. Very easy to get off because the leader naturally makes you discard a card. So I find like a lot of times if I see it early on, it's just a good turn to play potentially. That just rips another card. And I push so heavily against Austin, even though I think for that turn, I think I gave you more cards than you lost, I think.
It kind of evened out because you gave me some cards from the life, and I think it was 2 or 3.
I think it was 3. I think you were at 7.
It was 3, and then I drew 2 from my awakening. So,
and I only did that because it immediately stops your burn. So that way now I don't have to worry about you still burning me and then making attacks and me have to block. Now I'm like, okay, cool. He just has to go straight for attacks, and then I can choose from here how I want to play this turn out.
I mean, if I was a mad lad, I could just keep burning you, but just to my own detriment.
Yeah,
because it only has to be you to be 4 life. But it's not to do it, not me. I could kill myself if I want burn on the awakened side, but yeah, here comes a big goof because for some freaking reason, I don't know why I do this. Like, I played this leader so much when it came out, and I always forget. And even like Barakov was like, "Are you sure? Is this all the autos you're doing?"
Yeah. So
I always forget the KOing on the leader when you use Alliance.
So for clarification, before we start this, I looked at Austin's leader and I'm like, okay, cool, I know what it does. And you swung, I said, no negate, no blocker, because I figure I only have one open blocker, and you're just gonna pop it anyways if you're auto. And you're like, cool, Alliance. And I'm like, is that it? You're like, yeah. Nothing else? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. No blocker. Because you didn't pop it. I'm like, I'll just hang on to my guy instead of you trying to, instead of wasting resources.
And when he said that, I was like, why is he saying that? You fuck.
After I took the life.
Immediately clicked.
Yeah, after I took the life, you immediately, yeah.
It clicked, and I was like, gosh dang it. But, yeah, that something I got to work on with that leader. Other leaders I know like what the effects do really well. I'm thinking about it, but for some reason with this leader, every time I forget he has 3 effects. He has the discard 3 to get plus 10k to your battle cards, red and green, and your leader card, and then he has the sparking 5 when you attack, draw. But I always forget the Alliance one.
Yeah, and what I love about this leader is the searchability. There is no limitation to what you can search for. And I was able to just pull the secret rare in my hand because it has Raditz as part of its name.
Oh, wow.
Its character tag.
How have you felt about playing that secret rare? I know it's been pretty contentious in the community as like if it's good or not.
So obviously it's a timing thing. Like if you want to fully get off, you need to make sure your opponent has nothing standing. So like in this case right now, all of Austin's cards are tapped. So if I wanted to push, I could play it this turn. And he knows it's going to come because he saw me pull it to my hand. But he can't do anything about it, and that's just 2 more cards he's going to have to lose, unfortunately. Now, I will go off, though, on the timing thing again. I did play another hand control deck this night as well. And I lost because I chose to play the Unison over the Secret Rare.
Oof.
Yeah, this deck was unexpectedly aggressive.
Yeah, and like right here, I'm applying pressure to your battle card, and you can do 1 or 2 things here. You could negate it, which burns a card from your hand, but then the auto will still go off, and you still have to burn another card. If you don't negate it, you have to pitch a card, and then you have to choose if you want a combo just to save the card.
Yeah, and then I did the sparking, and I discarded a card, and then what was I going to say? Yeah, I saw you play this deck, the match you mentioned earlier, because I was right next to you, and it was a hand control v hand control. And that was one of the jankiest things I've ever seen.
Oh no!
Like it was just crazy. So like I didn't know what to expect because I actually didn't see the deck played.
That is true. That is true.
So seeing this, I'm like, it was a hand control deck. Okay, I know what to expect. Then you started like dropping cards. I was like, wait, what?
And you negged the other ape. Make it 10k, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna swing at your Videl. You still have to burn a card, and if you don't want a combo, you lose your Alliance target.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's always a dance whenever you're playing a more aggressive version of a hand control deck because you are going to give them cards back in their hand out of their life. Have you ever run into a problem where you've kind of given your opponent too much ammunition, Bancroft?
Not yet, but truth be told, this is the first time I ever played this deck. And I did feel like, even though I was trying to push him to awaken, that way he stops the burning effect, at a moment I was like, did I do too much? Did I give him too much cards? But then during this turn, I was like, okay, I just gotta focus on the battle cards, focus on my effects, and not give him any more life. And hopefully that could reset where I want him to be.
You know what my overall thought process of playing against you, against this hand control deck was? I wish I was playing cooler.
Yeah.
Just because like it's a weird thing I get into because I knew how I'd counter this because I played cooler so much. It's been a while since I played Burnhan because hand control wasn't really prevalent when Burnhan was around, and I went against one hand control deck the entire time I fought. You know, with on like one tournament we went to like up wherever it was, and
Dude, Gen Con or the one in
yeah,
Columbus.
I mean like when this set came out.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Columbus.
There was another bigger tournament we went to, and I played that. And I only played against one hand control deck, and otherwise I did really well. And so yeah, I just wasn't used to it because this deck draws a whole lot, and I was like, okay, I'm not that worried about the hand control stuff, but in my hand, I had like 7 negates. I literally drew all the negates in my deck. And I was like, this is great. This is fine. This is fine. And it was frustrating because you add that on top of I just generally get tilted by hand control anyways. Because
it's frustrating.
If it's I'm just getting out predicted or I'm getting like just like, oh, I did this, I thought of this, they thought ahead of that. I'm like, cool, they thought really hard. But hand controls and best of ones especially is just so uninteractable that it just makes me upset because I was like I can't do anything about it. So for me, the player, it just tilts me.
Yeah, the most fun part of a card game, in my opinion, is the interaction between players. And when one deck, and to be fair, the interaction between players is where a lot of mistakes and a lot of danger occurs. So when your opponent's deck is tuned to remove that danger and cut down on those mistakes by limiting your play, it can be quite frustrating.
And I just also goofed a lot in this. Like I said, hand control just kind of puts me in a tilted mindset, which is not something I need to work on. I just get so frustrated, and then I make a couple more mistakes I'll point out here a little later on. But the I think there was a point in the video where I was like, just my brain was just so like scrambled because I was trying to think of everything and seeing how big his board was. I was like, I know my answers because I played cooler so much. I was like, I don't know the answers for this massive, thing in this deck. And I had one answer. I was like, okay, if I see this answer, we'll be good. We'll be fine. So I'm just trying to like top deck. I'm like, all right, I got it somewhere in here. And at this point, I'm just trying to like survive because I got a lot of negates,
Yeah, 34 cards in a dream.
Yeah. And like, so I got all these negates. I'm just like, he's got a lot of attacks, but you know what? I've got a good hand size. I can figure this out. We got this. Got a little hidden gem here. But bam! Violent Rays.
Yeah, so swinging with the leader, I wanted to maximize the auto, make you warp a card, and then have crit applied afterwards. Maybe I should have swung up an 8 first. I could have ripped a little bit more cards out of your hand. And I think maybe I play my Unison, but I think ultimately I just pass. Because there's nothing much I could do unless I want to swing with a 10k or a 5k, So yeah, here's the Unison play.
This was the first time where I was like, oh my gosh, okay. I'm not constantly on my on my heels, like running backwards. It's like, cool. All right. I stood my ground some. Then I'm trying to like figure out, I'm like, all right, I just need a top deck in a dream, heart of the cards. That's what I'm thinking about, trying to figure out what he's going to do. And here he passes. And there's where my dream dies.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So in my hand, I have the Super Saiyan 3 Gohanks. The Unison. That minus 25 ignoring barriers. So to get rid of the majority of his board, give me an amazing fighting chance, get a hand size back, all the stuff. And the card I pull is a green card. So I have Gohanks and a green card in my hand. Gohanks requires 4 red energy.
Red energy. Oh no.
I run 3 green cards in the deck that aren't red-green.
I just thought of this, but do you guys think if they changed the charge rule where you could charge your energy at any point during your turn, but you only got 1, just,
kind of like
instead of it has to be the first thing you do you think that would make hand control less oppressive? Because in these kind of situations, he could swing with his leader and draw a red card, then charge it, play the Gohanks, and continue the game. So, is that something Bandai could look at instead of banning entire leaders and cards to try and fix the game a little bit?
It would definitely, in my opinion, add a different level of skill to the game because you wouldn't charge up front unless you wanted to play a card. You would maximize your draws, and then figure out what you want to charge afterwards.
And the issue too is with Magic, you have specified cards like land. With this game, you don't.
Right.
Charging phase is one of the most important phases. I've been told by players, and I also agree, because you have to think about, all right, what card do I not want to use this game?
Exactly. So if you could move that phase to any point in your turn where you have perfect information, I think that would just make for an out-and-out better experience, at least especially against hand control, where if you start your turn with 1 card in hand, you have to decide, am I playing a card or am I charging an energy and hoping I draw a more expensive card,
At that point, I had no hand, by the way, so that's why I was throwing I literally had no hand. Yeah. But.
And I want to cycle back real quick. On the turn when you had only Gohanks, I chose not to attack you because just in case that would have been a valuable card, it could have turned the game around. But it was a Nappa anyway, so I don't think it mattered even if I would to have attacked you continuously with the Unison. So.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like I said, we talked about it afterwards. If you were able to establish Gohanks, my entire board but the Secret Rare would be gone and the Unison. And then from there, I would have to play around your blocker and poke you when I can.
Yeah, and I could have got established drawing cards again with the leader swings and whatnot and gotten a hand size back up somewhat.
But that is today's matchup. Hope you all enjoyed. Keep in mind, there's buttons down below and on the screen. And, you know what? I'll let you guys fight it out.
Read your cards, know your plays, and fluff out.